That started, I want to say, in about 2003 when I got activated and really started to understand how civic engagement was missing from my life and how important it was for everyone to be civically engaged. And I went out on this idealistic jaunt and ran for public office. It was the most terrifying, wonderful learning experience I've ever had. And if anybody has any inkling to do it, I recommend it highly. It's a wonderful journey. But that really started my work in the transpartisan field, even though I didn't know that's what I was doing at the time. It has led to me working not only with Mark and John in the Center for Transpartisan Leadership, where we host events like this, but also I work as president of Coffee Party USA. It's a grassroots transpartisan organization that provides a kind of a safe place for people to dip their toe in civic engagement. There's a lot of newcomers that get into our field through Coffee Party. I also work with Joan Blades at Living Room Conversations as the managing partner. And Living Room Conversations is where two friends who have different perspectives each invite two more friends to have a structured conversation that's meaningful and leads to improved relationships and an ability for us to find common ground because we start building trust with one another. But what I really want to talk with you about, tonight is the superpower of respect. So Mark's talking here about skills and practices tonight, but I really want to talk about superpowers because they're a lot more exciting and they do so much. So I'm going to just cover one tonight, and that's the superpower of respect. You may or may not know that I used to be in advertising. I had a 20-year career in advertising and marketing, and I was a media buyer. And there was something very transformational that happened to me as a media buyer that actually set me on this track and helped unleash my superpower of respect. So the first thing that happened was that I was traveling to do this major negotiation in a small town in Kentucky. And as this dominant TV station, I really needed them to be a part of this media buy. And they were not moving on their rates. And my job, as it happened in the late 80s, was to get the lowest rate so my client could have bragging rights that they owned this station, right? I mean, this is how we measured success. And I basically threatened them and said, if you do not give me the rates that I have set, then I'm going to move all of the money into newspaper and billboards and anything else I can find to dominate this market without your station. And they capitulated and left. And they, had that defeated slump as they walked out of the room. And instead of me feeling victorious because I'd won my way, I felt shame because I had treated other human beings this way. And that was when I vowed that I would never be so disrespectful of other people again. Of course, I've lapsed a couple of times, as we all do, but I get back on it really fast. What happened there was that the bully had won, and that I discovered I was the bully. And one thing that has negated an ability for us to connect with each other over and over and over again has been the presence of that bully energy. And so, how does this connect to our political field? Well, I hear people talk about politics all the time as if the other side is bullying them. And sometimes I hear people being so strong and expressive of their opinion, and it's the right way, or you're stupid, which is another aspect of the bully. So sometimes, people feel bullied by the political system, and other times they are the bully without even knowing it. So what would happen if you and I and all the people we know actually decided to respect each other? Use this superpower of respect that we have. Well, there's 4 steps actually to unleashing the superpower in you, and you may have your own story of when you were disrespectful and had that recognition. But here I went back and kind of unpacked what happened, what did I do? The first thing that I did was I made the decision to use my superpower of respect. I was going to be respectful of people, I was going to care about what they wanted, and it was a win-win or no deal. So that was the first thing I did, was make that decision. I also told one of my media buyer buddies, so I had some accountability. They're the ones who are listening to me on the phone all the time. The second thing that I did was I started observing myself and what was I thinking? Am I thinking that other people are stupid? Am I thinking they're just ignorant? Am I thinking that, they just don't know what they're talking about or they're being a bully? How am I actually thinking? How is my thinking then informing my actions? And oftentimes, I would find that I was dismissing another person's perspective because it didn't match my own bias. So I had to exercise another superpower, which we're not going to get into tonight, called the superpower of curiosity. And being curious about other people actually opened them up quite a bit. The third thing I did was to look for common grounds and interest. So it may be something like when I'm with one side of my family, we have a pretty limited conversation about cats and pinball machines. But we all love cats and pinball machines, and from there we have a great relationship. I can't get into politics with them. They don't want to talk about it. But with other people, I find that I have a lot in common, and it might be something like clean air and water. Who doesn't want clean air and water? And then we can talk about more specifics because we've started to build a relationship and start trusting one another. And then the last thing that I do in celebrating because when we have a successful conversation, when there's been a challenge, and we find out that we actually can use the superpower of respect and connect with somebody regardless of our differences, that is something to be celebrated. It's part of what our country is built upon, and it's part of what we each need to do to help reweave the fabric that is the United States of America. And so with that, I'm going to turn it back to Mark.